So Dungeons & Dragons chief competitor Paizo, the publisher of Pathfinder and Starfinder, is in deep trouble right now. Apparently, they've lost over $2 million in 2025, and part of that is because of Diamond Comic Distribution folding and keeping a bunch of publishers' inventory. We talked about that they want to keep inventory and then sell it out the back door to pay off Diamond's debts. And now Paizo is having to lay a bunch of people off. And this is just a compounding problem in the tabletop board game space. I think everything kind of blew up during the pandemic. And just like streaming, all these companies are going to have to right size. They're going to have to temper their expectations because people are not locked in their houses anymore. And frankly, when it comes to tabletop games, when it comes to role-playing games specifically, people go buy the books, and then a lot of times they just keep playing with the same material they have, or they homebrew stuff. So it's getting harder and harder to constantly sell people new stuff. It's not like Magic where you're always getting new cards or people are collecting the cards or whatever. There's not a whole lot of collectability with a tabletop game, right? So Wizards is trying to change that. They want to go to seasons and all this crazy stuff. I don't know how that's going to work out for them. They're trying to monetize people by making them sign up for D&D Beyond. I don't know how that's going to go for them. But let's talk specifically about Paizo. And, they're going to have to lay people off. They're unionized. We talked about the union before, and we talked about why some people unionize. Sometimes people unionize just to get a decent paycheck when they're shown the door. But it does make it harder for companies to fire them. And I have to wonder, in the case of Paizo, like, are they going to get rid of the union employees and then bring people back that are not part of the union a year or two down the road? Is that part of what this is about? Because we're seeing right now Wizards of the Coast is getting dogpiled by the Magic Union because they were dead naming trans employees during Pride Month. I mean, it's crazy. But yeah, let's talk about Paizo. So before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. If you'd like more Clownfish TV, go out to more.clownfishtv.com. That's more.clownfishtv.com for more Clownfish TV, including bonus episodes you will not get anywhere else, and podcasts you will not get anywhere else. And speaking of podcasts, if you'd like to listen to us instead of watch us, you can go out to Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, wherever you listen to podcasts, we are there. So thank you very much for that. So they put a lengthy blog post up on their website, but let's go to ICV2 and see if we can make some sense of what's going on. And I have to give a hat tip to our friend Peter from Culturescape podcast. Very good podcast. Check it out. He actually sent me this link this morning because I had missed this. I had no idea what was going on with Paizo. They dropped the blog post, I think, last night at 6 or 7 o'clock p.m. So Paizo claims almost $2 million loss in 2025 due to Diamond hostage inventory. Company undergoes restructuring, will lay off a dozen employees. And it doesn't sound like a lot, but then you realize a company like Paizo probably doesn't have a ton of employees. They really don't. Paizo revealed they had declared almost $2 million in losses in 2025, forcing the company to undergo restructuring in 2026. Jim Butler, the CEO, explained the company's situation in a blog post on June 8th. The main contributor to Paizo's losses was the hostage inventory situation created by Diamond in mid-2025. A lot of publishers, I told you guys we would see the dominoes start to fall this year, because a lot of these smaller publishers cannot absorb the amount of inventory that Diamond absconded with, that they intended to sell out the back door to pay their own bills. Right? It'd be like if your neighbor gave you something to sell at a garage sale and you sold it and you kept all the money. That's kind of what it is, because a lot of this merchandise was on consignment, right? And a lot of publishers have substantial amounts of inventory tied up with Diamond, and they were going to offload it to Ollie's or something. They said they were partners with Diamond book distributors for book channel distribution, which include Amazon for Pathfinder and Starfinder products. And their inventory at Diamond was essentially frozen by the bankruptcy proceedings because JP Morgan Chase, the DIP, the DIP secured lender, claimed a lien on all of their products in the Diamond warehouse. A lien being they get first rights to it before you do. See also tax situations, the IRS or whatever can put liens on company property. So even if you'd like sell your building or something, they're going to take their tax money out of it before you get anything. That's just how it works. The Diamond bankruptcy has gone from bad to worse since the initial hostage inventory incident in September of 2025. Diamond attempted to seize and sell inventory from 31 vendors, including Paizo. Late last year, the bankruptcy filing went from Chapter 11 to Chapter 7, which is the bad one. There are multiple stages of bankruptcy. There are multiple kinds of bankruptcy. Chapter 11 is we want to basically put a pause on our debt. Like, we don't want to have to pay anybody for anything until we get our house in order. That's the most common bankruptcy filing. And some companies do come out of that, but that is usually the first domino again to fall over. Chapter 7 is the bad one. Chapter 7 is when everything gets liquidated to pay off the debts. That means there's no way we can turn the ship around. Some companies come out of it though. Marvel's come out of it. Apple has come out of it. Sometimes they just have to look. Red Lobster, I think, came out of it. Although they're doing endless shrimp again, because my kids went yesterday for endless shrimp. And I'm like, didn't that put you in bankruptcy before? Like, why are you doing endless shrimp again? But I digress. Anyway, the hostage inventory situation for Paizo dragged on into mid-2026 as courts tried to resolve the now $7 million owed to JP Morgan Chase. As a result, almost $10 million in Paizo inventory became stranded at Diamond as the courts sort things out. Can you imagine a company the size of Paizo? They're not very big. They're a fraction the size of Wizards of the Coast, which is owned by Hasbro, which is a mega conglomerate. They do not have $10 million sitting around to have tied up in inventory. The slow pace of the bankruptcy proceedings, having to write down almost $500,000 in additional sales covered under the bankruptcy, and book trade sales not doing so well in 2025, all amounted to Paizo being forced to make cuts in 2026 to survive. The company announced they will be laying off 12 employees from their staff. Paizo's workers had unionized in 2023, thus these layoffs will occur in accordance of union guidelines. Employees may volunteer to be laid off. Otherwise, at least senior employees of each impacted business will be laid off first. The impacted employees have 18 months of recall rights. So this is my tinfoil hat. And I don't know if Paizo is going to do this because all indications are they were totally on board with the union and all that. And they're not quite the bloodsuckers, I don't think, that Hasbro are. But I have to wonder if they're not going to lay these people off, wait out that 18 months and be like, okay, you can come back to work, but the union's gone. Like, we can't afford to pay you guys what we were paying you before. I don't know. That's just a tinfoil hat. So yeah, they're pausing a whole bunch of stuff. So here's their official statement. We're going to talk just about the greater, situation with the board game industry too, after we talk about Paizo. Come On Games. CMON, cool mini or not, I guess, whatever. Is that what it stands for? But they're going back to crowdfunding, and they had a $20 million annual loss. And this is one of the companies that push pause on publishing when the tariff situation happened. But I think the tariff situation again was an excuse. I think a lot of these board game publishers are not doing that well because they overhired and they overextended themselves during the pandemic because they thought, well, people are going to be playing more board games. Well, yeah, they are when they can't leave their houses. Again, see also streaming. All right, so this is coming from, let's see here. We'll go out. Yeah, here we go. Paizo. Okay, this is coming from the Paizo blog. Paizo restructuring, a difficult update about our future, how we got here. And they talked about that. They said in January of last year, our longtime book trade distributor, Diamond, declared bankruptcy. Diamond handled Paizo products for major retailers like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Ingram, and our agreement with them was based on consignment. They would pay to ship the products to their warehouse, and they were paid when the products were sold. And that's typically how it works. Like Diamond, I don't think very often do they buy inventory from people. It's basically everything's on, they're a distributor. Everything's on consignment. When Diamond collapsed, the situation became far more complicated. They talked about that they owe $10 million in Paizo inventory, that there's $10 million just like sitting in a Diamond warehouse somewhere. They said the result has been devastating. Paizo lost nearly $2 million last year, had to write off $500,000 in additional sales covered by the bankruptcy, and book trade sales remain far below historical levels. Now that's interesting. Book trade sales remain far below historical levels. What is going on there? because all indicators were everything was doing great. Everything was doing great, guys. Graphic novels are doing great. Tabletop games are doing great. Everything's just going fan-freaking-tastic. Paizo, though, as a company, again, I don't know anybody over there, but I do know that it was going around that they had people that were putting in their bios, not just like the whole pronoun thing, whatever, which it's, they're in the West Coast. So of course. But beyond that, they were like, and we're sorry that our building is on indigenous land and we apologize to the people of this tribe. And I'm like, what? What? Nobody cares. They just want to, I'm sure the indigenous people probably cared, but they don't care if they're writing you about board game stuff, tabletop game stuff. Right. So they were just, look, let's be real. They were woker than woke. Right. So part of me is like, is this the book trades being lower, or are, given the culture war stuff going on right now, are people just choosing not to buy their products anymore? I can't say. I don't know. I think a lot of people right now, between the economy and the politics, are just choosing to stick with what they got. That's my gut feeling on it. This is why people are going back to retro games. This is why people are trying to track down DVDs and Blu-rays again. Hell, there was a company, they put a direct-to-VHS movie out last week. It was, I think it was South Africa or something. I'm like, that's crazy. But they're doing it because people want the old stuff. They want physical goods again. So I think that might be part of what's going on. I don't know for sure. But I think a lot of people are like, yeah, you know what? I'm good with earlier editions of Pathfinder. Those books still work fine. They said, while sales through Paizo.com and hobby retailers have grown, they have not been sufficient to offset the losses. So people are buying through their website and buying through hobby shops, but they're not buying through like Barnes & Noble and stuff. We are back in the book trade today with a new partner, but the book market has not recovered. We must make difficult decisions now. Layoffs. As part of our efforts to address our core business and adapt to the current business environment, Paizo will be conducting layoffs impacting 12 employees. Acknowledging that layoffs are sometimes necessary, Paizo management and the United Paizo Workers Union established a clear, fair process for implementing the layoffs. Well, at least they're not just like, we're shutting the company down. See ya. Paizo has given the union 20 business days notice of positions scheduled for reduction in force and may propose alternatives. Employees may volunteer for layoffs. Otherwise, the least senior employee in each impacted business unit is affected. Impacted employees will receive 1 week of severance per year of service with a minimum of 2 weeks. That's good. I've been places before where they've laid people off that were there for years and they got nothing. And, that's, I don't think that's fair. Those affected will have an 18-month recall right. So if things drastically improve in the next 18 months and they want to rehire, they will call you back. Some companies do that. I've seen this happen in like blue collar industries. I don't know about white collar. I don't know, but 18 months isn't really, in the grand scheme of things, is not a really long period of time to course correct your entire business. I got to wonder, if things don't improve for them, are they going to wind up like selling off to Hasbro? And then what I'm saying? Or could, and this is what I theorized before, I don't know if it's going to happen or not, could Hasbro outsource a lot of their Dungeons and Dragons books to Paizo because they've got people over there that know what the hell they're doing, and then just have Paizo make the D&D paper products, and then Hasbro focuses on the digital stuff, which is what they're really interested in. I have no idea. Organized play. Pathfinder Society and Starfinder Society have always been labors of love. Programs we've supported as marketing investments to grow in-person play at game stores and conventions, but the needs of retailers, conventions, and home groups has evolved at the cost of producing scenarios has grown significantly. It's time to, so basically we're going to change all this too. It's time to evolve organized play using a tool perfect for transitioning the campaigns to its dedicated players. The Pathfinder and Starfinder Infinite Publishing programs. So they're going to let you do it yourself, basically. Official scenarios. Paizo will continue publishing Pathfinder Society and Starfinder Society scenarios at the current rate as normal through October. After that, we will shift to 2 scenarios per month. We have 2 major organized play themed hardcovers coming next year. We know organized play has seen a lot of changes recently, and that some of these have been frustrating or disruptive to our venture officers and player community. That whole thing, same with Magic too, and Pokemon, like that whole thing is incredibly hard to keep track of, I think, for especially a smaller company like Paizo, like just having to keep track of the rules. And then you have to like watch the judges like a hawk, because some of these people are not good people and they get in as judges at these things. Foundry support, we've invested heavily in virtual tabletop modules for organized play scenarios, but sales have not covered development costs. People don't like virtual tabletop. We will finish the current season, then pause virtual tabletop support for new society modules. What's next? We partnered with Independent Publishers Group to rebuild our book trade presence. Sales are still recovering, but we're in a better position than we were in 2025. The new Paizo store is performing better than the old store, and soon we will launch a direct-to-retail program enabling local game stores to order directly from Paizo, including a complete backlist catalog. This is what the future is going to look like. I think I'm going to be honest, most comic book publishers, most game publishers, like anybody that historically has had most of their sales come from comic shops, this is what the future looks like for them. They're going to have to do direct sales. They're going to have to wheel and deal with the comic shops and the game stores on their own and supply them with product just like everybody else. It was easy with Diamond because you just sent your stuff to Diamond. People ordered your stuff with a bunch of other people's stuff, and then they just got one big box, hopefully of stuff that wasn't damaged. But going forward, I think you're going to have to seek out the publishers directly and buy from them directly, because Diamond is gone. I don't think it's ever coming back like it was. So anyway, that's that. Let's see here. We'll cover this real quick. So Come On Games eyes crowdfunding return after annual losses spiral to almost $20 million from Board Game Wire. Yeah. So when the tariffs were announced, Trump's tariffs, most people have forgotten about it. It was last year and everybody was panicking. They thought that it was going to triple the cost of games. And I think for a short period of time, there was a massive increase. Like, we do a lot of pins, and our pins doubled. The price doubled like overnight. And so we had to go find another pin manufacturer to work with. Same with our book printing and all this other stuff. So yeah, I mean, it was real for a while, but then it kind of dropped out. Now what's killing people is the shipping. Oh my God, the post office is just, it's insane right now. But they had a $20 million loss, which I don't understand. I mean, it has to be mismanagement or something, because they were making millions and millions and millions of dollars on Kickstarters, on licensed Kickstarters. And somehow they wound up losing a bunch of money. And apparently the last time I heard, they had like 17 or 18 unfulfilled crowdfunders. So like, I don't know I think they run one, and then they run another one, and then they run another one. Because when you get to a certain level at Kickstarter, they will actually let you run like 3 to 6 campaigns simultaneously. But somehow these guys racked up like, I don't know, I'd have to look into it. They racked up like 17, and they were like multi-million-dollar campaigns. And then they hit pause on it, and now apparently they lost like $20 million. I mean, this is just like, how do you do that? So this is coming from Board Game Wire. They said, financially troubled board game publisher Come On says it plans to relaunch its halted crowdfunding operations later this year after seeing annual losses soar to almost $20 million in 2025. They pulled the plug on crowdfunding and new game development 12 months ago, citing the economic uncertainty created by the UF tariff hikes, which at the time had reached 145% for China, where the vast majority of hobby board games are manufactured. Yes, but again, I think that was not completely true. I think they were using it as an excuse. A month later, it emerged that Come On's financial problems had began growing long before the tariffs, with the companies announcing it had slumped to a loss of more than $3 million in 2024. Due to falling sales for its crowdfunding campaigns. Well, if you have 17 outstanding, people might be like, hey, what's up with that? The loss was almost double Come On's total profit from the prior 3 years, but the figure is dwarfed by the $19.9 million annual loss company just announced in its 2025 financial results. So I think just across the board, no pun intended, a lot of these game companies got too big for their britches, and now they're going to have to scale back. And I think it's kind of like with video games too, and everything else we talk about on the channel. At some point in time, you have to be okay with being sustainable. Like, we have to go back to the lemonade stand mentality, or the small business mentality, where as long as we're treading water making some profit, paying our people, making the stuff we want to make, the business is sustainable. It's sustainable for years. It's sustainable for decades. It's not we blow up overnight and then we stay at that level. That never happens with any business. Usually what happens is when a business blows up overnight, there's some shenanigans involved, or it's just a bubble, or they're going to pump and dump the business. They're going to pump it up, be like, oh my gosh, guys, look at all the revenue we're making, all the traffic we're getting on our blogs or whatever. And then they're going to turn around and sell it to some sucker, and they're going to find out the hard way that it was all fake. These companies are going to have to learn to be sustainable. And I don't know, Come On seems like they've got their eye on like a bunch of big like corporate deals. They always get too big for their britches. IDW is like, we're going to make Netflix shows. That's what we're going to do. And they had a really healthy board game division at IDW, which I'm sure they would kill for now, but they cut it loose because they're like, oh, it's not making enough money. We're going to chase Hollywood. And that blew up. You know, nobody's happy with just staying in their lane. It's really weird to see. And I don't think these guys are really, I mean, I think people working on the games probably care about the games, but whoever owns the company, runs the company, is just looking at the bottom line. But this is like mismanagement beyond mismanagement. Like, I have no idea. I know they sold their zombie franchise or something, but yeah, they're making millions and millions of dollars in campaigns, and they're even like, we lost $20 million. I mean, how are you laundering money? I mean, I don't understand it. Now, I don't think that's happening with Paizo at all. I just think that the market is changing. I think people aren't buying new stuff. I don't think they trust some of these companies. Again, I'm not saying that's specifically what's going on with Paizo, but there has been some controversy around some of the people working at Paizo and their political opinions, and it's very possible that people are choosing to nope out. Was it Paizo? I can't remember if it was Paizo or WotC that said that if JD Vance ever picked up a copy of their book, I hope he returns it or something. I can't remember, but I know a lot of people are just like, yeah, screw that. You know, I just want to play a game. I don't want to get involved in all this stuff. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this one up, guys. There we go. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. We'll talk later.